She stood in front of my driveway, yelling like she owned the street. "That Jeep belongs to my daughter!" she screamed, jabbing her finger toward my car. I froze for a second, holding the mail in my hand, confused. "Ma'am, this is my Jeep," I said calmly, though my voice was shaking with anger. Before I could say more, she pulled out her phone and barked, "I'm calling the police right now! You're stealing my daughter's car!" Within minutes, 2 patrol cars pulled up, lights flashing. The officers got out and she ran toward them like she'd just caught a criminal. "That man," she shouted, pointing at me, "he took my daughter's Jeep. She was supposed to drive it to school today." Her daughter, a blonde teenager sitting in the passenger seat of another car, looked embarrassed but didn't say a word. One of the officers turned to me. "Sir, is this vehicle yours?" he asked firmly. I took a deep breath and handed him my papers. "Yes, officer. Here's the registration and title. It's under my name." Karen's face turned red. "No, that's fake. He printed that," she snapped, stepping closer. I didn't even flinch. "You might want to be careful with your accusations," I said, folding my arms. The second officer checked the paperwork, looked at me, and then back at her. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "this vehicle is registered to him." But she wasn't done. "You don't understand. He's lying. He scammed me," she shouted, her voice breaking with frustration. The officers exchanged a look, unsure what to believe. I could feel my patience fading, but I stayed quiet, because what she didn't know was that I had someone very powerful on my side, and she was about to find out exactly who. "You really picked the wrong guy to mess with," I muttered under my breath as her fake story began to crumble. Karen wasn't backing down. Even after the officers told her to calm down, she kept yelling, "You don't know who I am. My husband's on the HOA board. We can get him removed from this neighborhood." Her voice echoed through the quiet street as neighbors started peeking out from their windows. The older officer sighed, clearly annoyed. "Ma'am, we've verified ownership. There's no issue here." But Karen marched right up to my Jeep, slammed her hand on the hood and snapped, "Then explain why this car looks exactly like my daughter's." I raised an eyebrow. "Because it's the same model, not the same car," I said dryly. "You can check the plates if you want." The younger cop nodded, stepping closer to compare the license numbers on my registration and plate. Karen's daughter whispered, "Mom, please stop. This is embarrassing." Karen ignored her. "He must have cloned the plate. I've seen videos about this," she shouted, her voice trembling with desperation. The officer gave me an apologetic glance, but I stayed calm. My phone buzzed, and I quietly texted. One message: "It's happening again." A few minutes later, a black sedan pulled up behind the police car. Karen looked confused as a well-dressed woman stepped out, flashing a badge. The color drained from Karen's face when she heard the words, "State Attorney's Office." "What's going on here?" The officers immediately straightened up. "Ma'am," the attorney said, looking at Karen, "we've received multiple complaints about false reports and harassment in this area. I believe this is your third." Karen stammered, I was just trying to protect my daughter." The attorney turned to me, offering a faint smile. "Good thing you called when you did," she said. "We've been watching her for a while." Karen's voice cracked. "Wait, you know him?" I folded my arms and looked right at her. "Yeah," I said slowly. "You could say we've worked together before." Karen's jaw dropped, and for the first time she didn't have anything to say. She took a small step back, her confidence slipping away. "This can't be real," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You set this up. You're framing me." The state attorney's eyes narrowed. "Framing you? Ma'am, we've already received video evidence from 3 of your neighbors. You've been harassing residents, placing fake HOA warnings on their doors, and calling police for false theft reports." Karen's face went pale. "Those were warnings. They park where they shouldn't, on their own property." The attorney interrupted, her tone sharp. "You don't own these homes. You don't make the rules here." I leaned slightly closer, my voice low but steady. "You really thought you could scare me like the others, didn't you?" Karen glared at me, her jaw clenched. "You think you're so smart hiding behind your connections," she snapped. "But you don't belong here. This neighborhood isn't for people like you." The cops exchanged uneasy looks, realizing what she meant. I stayed quiet, but my silence said enough. The attorney folded her arms. "That's exactly the kind of attitude that gets people in real trouble," she said coldly. Karen's daughter, still sitting in the passenger seat, finally spoke up. "Mom, please stop. You're making it worse." For a second, Karen's expression softened, almost like she realized how far she'd gone. But then her anger flared again. "No, they're trying to take everything from us," she yelled, tears forming in her eyes. The attorney turned toward me. "We'll need a formal statement. The department's already gathering evidence for charges." I nodded. "Of course, I have security footage too. She came to my driveway last week threatening to tow my Jeep." Karen froze. "You recorded me?" I met her eyes. "You bet I did." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the sound of the wind and her daughter quietly crying in the car. Then the officer's radio crackled. "Dispatch, we've confirmed her prior incidents, requesting clearance for arrest." Karen's lips parted. "Wait, you can't arrest me." The attorney gave her a firm look. "Watch us." Karen's voice broke into a shaky scream as the officer stepped closer. "You can't do this. I was just protecting my family," she cried, clutching her phone like it could save her. The younger officer gently took it from her hand. "Ma'am, please turn around," he said. The sound of the cuffs clicking echoed through the quiet neighborhood. Her daughter covered her face, whispering, "Mom, please stop." But Karen kept shouting, "You'll regret this. My husband's going to sue every one of you." The attorney just sighed. "Your husband already tried that last month. Case dismissed." She turned toward me. "We'll handle it from here. She's going to spend some time answering questions about the fake HOA notices." I looked at Karen, still struggling against the officers, and felt a strange mix of pity and anger. "You could have just asked me for help," I said quietly. "Instead, you tried to ruin me." Her eyes burned with frustration. "You think you're untouchable, don't you? You think just because you know people, you can live above the rules." I shook my head. "No, Karen. I follow the rules. That's why people like me don't end up in handcuffs." As they led her toward the patrol car, her daughter looked at me through teary eyes. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "She's been different since Dad lost his job." That hit me harder than I expected. I nodded gently. "It's not your fault. None of this is." The girl gave a weak smile before stepping back. The attorney turned to me once more. "We'll call you for the deposition," she said, "and thank you for staying calm. Most people would have lost it by now." I exhaled deeply. "I've seen worse. I was a prosecutor before I moved here," I said quietly. The attorney paused. "You never mentioned that." I gave her a faint grin. "Didn't think it mattered until now." Her brows lifted. "Well, that explains a lot." Karen, sitting in the back of the police car, heard it too. Her eyes widened as the realization hit her. She hadn't just picked a fight with a random neighbor. She had gone after someone who used to put people like her behind bars. You were a prosecutor?" she said weakly through the open window, her voice stripped of arrogance. I stepped closer so she could see my face. "Yeah," I said quietly, "for the state attorney's office. I handled cases just like this, people who thought rules didn't apply to them." She stared at me, speechless. For the first time, she didn't yell or threaten. She just looked lost. The police car door shut and the officer climbed into the driver's seat. The neighborhood, which had been filled with noise minutes ago, was now silent. Only them flashing lights reflected off the windows around us. The attorney stood beside me. "You know," she said softly, "it's funny how people like her think they can control everyone. Fake HOA, fake power, until they meet the law face to face." I gave a small nod. "Power feels easy when no one pushes back." She smiled slightly. "You did the right thing calling us. You probably saved the next family from going through the same nightmare." As the police car rolled away, I glanced at Karen's daughter. She was still standing by the curb, hugging herself. "Will she be okay?" I asked quietly. The attorney looked at her too. "She's young. Maybe this will be the wake-up call her mum needed." I sighed and turned toward my Jeep, finally letting myself relax. But as I reached for the handle, I noticed something. Karen's husband standing at the corner of the street, watching everything unfold. He didn't move closer, just stood there, his expression hard to read, part anger, part fear. The attorney followed my gaze. "That's him." "Yeah," I murmured, "and something tells me this isn't over." The man turned and walked away slowly, disappearing behind the trees, leaving behind a quiet that didn't feel peaceful. It felt like the calm before another storm. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing non-stop. Dozens of missed calls, messages, and emails, all from neighbors. When I stepped outside, I saw why. Someone had taped dozens of fake HOA violation letters on mailboxes all down the street. I pulled one off and read it aloud. Immediate eviction notice due to property misconduct. Signed, HOA Board. The signature at the bottom, Karen's husband. A cold chill ran through me. He was continuing what she started. Within an hour, neighbours gathered in front of my house, waving those fake letters. Is this for real? One of them asked nervously. Do we actually have to move? I shook my head. No, these are fake, just like the ones Karen used. One of the older residents sighed. Then why does it say it's approved by the town office? That made me pause. If he'd forged official documents, this wasn't just harassment. It was a crime. I pulled out my phone and dialed the state attorney's number. It's happening again, I said as soon as she answered. He's taken over where Karen left off. She replied sharply. Send me a photo of the letter and stay put. We'll handle this. But before I could hang up, a white truck pulled up beside my driveway. Karen's husband stepped out, holding a stack of those same fake letters in his hand. He smirked. You think you can humiliate my wife and walk away? I stared him down. You're making the same mistake she did. He chuckled bitterly. Oh no, I learned from her mistake. This time I made sure there's no video, no witnesses, and no proof. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. By the time anyone figures it out, you'll be the one behind bars. But what he didn't know was that there was proof. More than he could imagine. My Jeep's dashcam had recorded everything from the moment he parked. I smiled faintly. You sure about that? I asked, tilting my head toward the Jeep. He turned to look, frowning slightly, then froze when he noticed the small, blinking red light on the dashcam. The colour drained from his face. You recorded this? I crossed my arms. Every second. His smirk vanished the instant he realised the camera had caught everything. You can't use that, he barked, trying to sound confident, but his voice cracked. That's private property. You're invading my privacy. I couldn't help but laugh quietly. You were on my driveway threatening me. That camera is perfectly legal. Before he could respond, a black SUV rolled up again. It was the same state attorney from yesterday, this time with 2 officers beside her. The husband's bravado melted instantly. You've got to be kidding me, he muttered. The attorney stepped out holding a printed copy of one of his fake HOA letters. Mr. Daniels, she said, her voice cold but calm, you've just committed mail fraud, forgery and harassment. I hope you understand how serious this is. He tried to play it off, shrugging. Those letters were just warnings. It's not a big deal. She raised an eyebrow. Not a big deal. You forged an official government seal. That's a felony. I leaned against my Jeep, arms crossed, watching him squirm. You should have stopped when she got arrested, I said. Now you're both in it. The husband glared at me. You ruined my family, he snapped. She lost her position on the HOA board because of you. No, I said quietly. She lost it because she forgot what real neighbours do. Respect each other. The officers moved forward, reading him his rights as they placed the cuffs on his wrists. He didn't fight back this time, just kept muttering to himself, shaking his head. His daughter, who had come running down the street after seeing the flashing lights again, froze at the sight of her dad being led to the same patrol car her mum had been in just a day before. Tears filled her eyes. Please stop, she whispered, looking at both of us. Just stop. I walked up to her gently. You don't deserve this, I said softly. You're nothing like them. You're going to be okay. The attorney turned to the girl. Do you have somewhere safe to stay? She nodded weakly. My aunt lives a few blocks away. The attorney gave a small nod. Go there. We'll make sure you're protected. As the patrol car drove off with her father, the girl stood there for a moment, then looked at me. Thank you, she said quietly before walking away. The street was silent again. 2 days, 2 arrests, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this story wasn't just about revenge or justice anymore. It was about something deeper. How easily power can blind people, and how truth always finds a way to surface. By evening, the neighbourhood was quiet again. For the first time in weeks, there were no arguments, no fake notices, no flashing police lights, just the sound of crickets and the soft rustle of trees. I sat on my porch sipping coffee, watching the sunset reflect off the hood of my Jeep, the same Jeep that had started it all. My phone buzzed. It was a message from the state attorney. Both Daniels have confessed. Case closed. You did good. I stared at the screen for a moment, then set it down with a deep breath. It was finally over. But as the calm settled in, I couldn't help thinking about their daughter, the look in her eyes when she realized her whole world had just fallen apart. A soft knock on the fence made me look up. She stood there holding a small box. "Hey," she said quietly. "Mom asked me to give you this. It's an apology." I hesitated, then took the box and opened it. Inside was a single car key, an extra key to my Jeep. On the tag, written in shaky handwriting, were 3 words. I was wrong. For a long moment, I didn't say anything. I just stared at it, the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on me. Finally, I nodded. "Tell her I accept," I said softly. "And tell her I hope she finds peace." The girl smiled faintly, tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, then turned and walked away down the quiet street. As I watched her disappear into the fading light, I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of relief and sadness. Justice had been served, yes, but at a price none of us had expected. I leaned back in my chair, looking at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "I didn't fight for this country," I murmured to myself, "just to be told I can't park in my own driveway." And for the first time in a long time, I smiled, not out of victory, but because the truth had finally won.